My name is Sumer Haider, and that's not a super descriptive title. But we're gonna take it as it is. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you down a little bit of a trip down memory lane. Like Tierney said, I joined Oakridge in the 3rd grade. I became a part of Mrs. Crenshaw's class when I was 8 years old, and the transition was monstrous, to say the least, for 2 reasons. One, I was a monster, and 2, no one wanted to be friends with me because of it. But here I am, all bright, shiny, and new. I'm happy. I make decent grades. Sorry, Mom. I have friends now, quite a few in fact. So the big question now is, how did I get from there, friendless and kind of miserable, to here, happy and pretty satisfied with life? Well, that story is long and boring and kind of sad. So instead, I'm gonna give you the highlights, the pro tips I learned along the way, because no senior speech is complete without some life lessons. Here we go. Okay, the first thing I learned, never take yourself too seriously. This is essentially my life's motto, as you can obviously see. Why cry when you could laugh instead, right? When I was younger, I was a bold combination of obnoxious, pretentious, and precocious. People in the audience right now are thinking, well, she hasn't changed much. You're right. You're right. It's fine, it's true. At the same time, I was probably worse back then than I am now. I've grown a lot, and as Mr. Renshaw says, I was a big monster before and a little monster now. Here are some pictures of me from when I was a kid. I was 8 years old in all of these pictures. According to my mom, despite the fact that I have like 3 different haircuts, go figure. I mean, let's really just take a look at these, because, I mean, 2 of them, like, my mouth is open like a banshee. I'm wearing a racially insensitive pilgrim costume, just the worst, honestly. I know what you're thinking. She's pretty cute. She couldn't have been that bad. And you're right on one account. I'm adorable. But I really was that bad. I was one of those kids who always had a fun fact. Like, fun fact, the sun is actually white. Fun fact, king cobras are the only snakes that build nests. But instead of delivering these fun facts in a fun way, I would deliver them in as condescending a tone as an 8-year-old could muster. So it would come out more like, didn't you know that butterflies can taste with their feet? How could you not know this really weird and inconsequential fact about butterflies? Are you stupid or something? Yeah, you can't blame other kids for not wanting to be friends with that. It sucked for a while, the not having friends thing, but it didn't actually last that long. A few kids not liking me felt like the whole world was against me, but that's not true. And like every young adult hero in every single dystopian novel ever, I prevailed. I learned to laugh at myself. I learned to laugh with other people too. And here is proof. That's a self-portrait of me. Just take out man and put in teenage girl. Some people use humor as a crutch to keep themselves from getting too emotionally involved. Some people use humor as a defense mechanism to keep themselves from getting too close with other people. I obviously use humor as both of these things because this is a pretty serious topic and I'm making a lot of jokes. But most importantly to me, and I think the thing we need to focus on here, is that I think of humor as a connection between 2 people. You're never closer with someone than when you're sharing a laugh, because laughter is pure joy. And that connection between 2 people is something that brings me to pro tip number 2, be good to your friends. I have friends now. I feel the need to reassure you of that because we were being pretty emo a couple seconds ago. Here are some pictures of me and my friends, my gal pals and dude bros. These are my homies. Being a good friend seems easy when I lay it out like this, but it's pretty hard in practice, so let's go over the basics. You have to be patient. Not everybody's easy to get along with, but some people are worth the effort it takes to get used to them. Coffee's an acquired taste, why not people? You have to be kind, you have to be supportive, open-minded, you have to be loyal. There's no point in being an okay friend to a bunch of people when you can't be a good friend to one person. Friendship, honestly, and I don't mean to get too sappy, but I'm gonna be really sappy right now. Friendship is the most beautiful thing in the entire world, especially to anyone who has any understanding of loneliness. So yeah, be good to your friends because they're already so good to you. At the same time, let's not get too hasty here, okay? Having friends is not all it's cracked up to be sometimes, okay? You know when you have friends, they make you share your chips at lunch? They buy you weird birthday gifts and then you have to pretend to like them? Sometimes no, not even sometimes, all the time. They're like, hey, come hang out with us when all you want to do is sit at home and watch Mad Men and cry, okay? It's the worst. And sometimes you get a little jealous. I consider myself lucky enough to be surrounded by some incredible individuals. So pro tip number 3 is don't compare yourself to others. It's hard not to feel jealous of other people's accomplishments, especially when your friends are awesome, like mine are. At the same time, that way lies madness. That's how you lose friends, not keep them. You can't think of other people's success as something you need to catch up to. The only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. Yes, that was painful for me to say. That's how cheesy that was. So we're gonna take a breather and look at some super duper hipster pictures of that exact same quote over unrelated backgrounds. What being true to yourself has to do with sunsets, I don't know, but it's happening right there. I give up. I know it sounds cheesy and from a Lifetime movie, but it's true. And having that kind of pride in yourself brings me to pro tip number 4, love yourself. Arguably the hardest and inarguably the cheesiest. Here we go. I told you guys already, I had no friends when I was a kid. It's hard to like yourself when no one else does, and especially when you're younger and you don't understand why. But I learned something. As much as I rely on my friends and family now, I know that sometimes the only person who can pick you back up after you've fallen down is yourself. The only person staring back at you in the mirror is you. So find something to love in there. And you have to find something to love in there, because there's nothing and there's never something so wrong with you that you don't deserve the basic human right of self-esteem and self-respect. Now, here is an example of how all of these things come together. It's this presentation. Quelle surprise! Coming up here and talking to you about my troubles making friends when I was a kid is honestly humiliating, but in its own way, it's freeing as well. I'm willing to own up to my mistakes now. I'm willing to laugh at them. I'm willing to trust my friends and my family to love me in spite of them. I won't let my mistakes hold me back from becoming a better person. And I know that if I ever get myself into some kind of trouble again, I can rely on myself to get myself through it, like I have before and like I will again. And so can you. There's no mistake too big or too vast that you can't get over it with time and effort. The first step is admitting that you've made a mistake, and everything else just comes as it goes. Genuine remorse helps too. I told my friends that I wasn't going to talk about anything too serious in my senior speech. I tried to give it over memes. But I ended up on the same emotional roller coaster as the rest of them. I kind of like the idea that talking to you about my mistakes might prevent someone else from repeating them. So thanks for coming out and listening to this. And even if you didn't learn anything, you got out of 15 minutes of class, and it's dark enough in here that arguably you could have taken a nap without Mr. Anderson catching you. So, that's all, folks. Don't let your memes be dreams. Bye.